Hello and welcome to our annual Halloween special of The Real Deal, your source for spoiler-free movie reviews. I'm Tommy Wiseau.
I'm the Martian.
And I'm Alex Kent.
You know, it's funny because my brother Connor Wiseau was on last year. I thought a really funny joke.
I remember Borat was here last year too. That was really funny as well.
Borat, I love that movie. I love Sacha Baron Cohen. Best comedy of all time.
Your film is also great.
Yes,
yeah, Alex,
it is.
I gotta say, I love your costume, man. I really do.
Very good. What are you, little boy?
I guess so, but I'm truly wondering, where's Nathaniel?
Who
Where is Nathaniel?
Oh, geez. All right, I'm back, guys. Hold on. Oh, yeah, all the hairs in my face.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too, Alex.
Good to see you, Nathaniel.
Yeah. Well, tonight we will be reviewing Zombieland Double Tap. But before we get into our feature review, we will be discussing and highlighting our favorite films from Studio Ghibli. Now, look, Studio Ghibli is one of the most heralded animation studios in history.
Yep.
So it's really hard to just kind of settle on one movie to call the best.
Yeah, I'm still just entering the world of Ghibli, to be honest with you, but I'm going to get into my favorite movie in a second, but they've made great films from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I pretty much started watching Studio Ghibli the past 2 weeks, so I kind of got caught up on like the top 3 movies that Nathaniel recommended to me. They were all amazing. I really liked them a lot.
Well, yeah, because like I've definitely seen my fair share of Ghibli films,
Yeah.
so I figured I'd spread the wealth amongst you guys.
You're the leader
welcome.
of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
He definitely made the right picks, I think.
Well,
Yeah.
Alex, what is your favorite one?
So when I was younger, I regretfully had little interest towards world cinema, and it's no shock after viewing The Wind Rises last night that this emotional tale got nominated for an Academy Award and a Golden Globe in 2013. It is based on the life of Japanese plane designer Jiro Horikoshi, and this morally questioning story uses animation to analyze the destructive nature of humanity, and it's a work that I would recommend to anyone who wants to feel mesmerized and saddened for 2 hours straight.
Well, you know, perhaps it's not my favorite Ghibli film, which we will get into later, but it's definitely my second favorite because out of all of Miyazaki's films, it's the one that I was the most moved by. Like, I cried at the end. I'm not ashamed to admit that.
Well, it's definitely got like an adult theme, which a lot of Studio Ghibli movies have. I mean, I haven't seen this movie personally, but I've read up on it, and apparently this is probably the most mature.
Yeah, I would say, because it was originally his swan song, because he was supposed to retire on it, and now he's like, oh, right, I'm going to make one more or something like that.
Yeah, he's getting older now, and the fact he used World War II and animations and themes like that of humanity, the worst of humanity in animation, you rarely see that. And the romance in it too, we've talked about this, Nathaniel.
It's beautiful.
It's amazingly well done. And you love to see romance done right.
Yeah, and I think this is at least in animation, this is definitely one of the best cases I've ever seen, which is funny because there's another anime film that does it even better, but I won't get into that because it's not Studio Ghibli.
And also in The Wind Rises, just like most of Ghibli's films, the world is beautiful. The world building is just one of a kind.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Jacob, how about you? What did you watch?
My Studio Ghibli pick of the week is Spirited Away. I watched Spirited Away for the first time this past weekend, so don't sue me, but I gotta say, this is easily one of my favorite animated films of all time. It's about a young girl and her parents moving to a new town and taking the wrong turn, leading them into an empty amusement park where spirits go to rest. Her parents are quickly turned into pigs after getting greedy and eating the spirits' food. The young girl is stuck in the spirit world trying to turn them back into their human form. One thing all Studio Ghibli films have in common is their amazing hand-drawn animation that totally immerses the viewer in the film's world. And Spirited Away is no exception. The 2D animation in this film from 2001 is better than most 3D animated films that I've seen today, honestly.
No, I'm glad you mentioned the 2D animation because it's just absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
I saw it in theaters and I was falling asleep, unfortunately. But the point is, like, just throwing that up on the big screen, you can see all the little details. And the world building is just, I haven't seen a world building this good since George Lucas's Star Wars.
Yeah.
Also, the score in this film
Oh my God.
is amazing. There's really no words to
It
describe
really
how haunting
reminded
and
me
beautiful
of,
it is.
It reminded me of a game. It reminded me of The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, because of just the score and the animation.
Yeah.
A lot of the locations reminded me of locations in this game, and I was pretty blown away by that because that's a great game too.
Well, you know, the thing, and I feel like this with all of these hand-drawn animated films, I feel like it's kind of a lost art now. Because you get a lot of CG films and all that, and it's just like not enough are made. and I hope it doesn't get
Yeah.
lost. And I'm so glad Japan is still making it.
Hand-drawn animation just brings humanity to all of the characters and just the world itself. And we need more of it. CGI is great, but it's a bit overdone in 2019.
It's definitely overdone.
Oh, I definitely agree. Well, as I said before, I'm probably the Studio Ghibli expert in the room.
Yep.
And now I've seen a lot of great films like Grave of the Fireflies, which wasn't directed by Miyazaki. And Castle in the Sky, Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, Wind Rises. But I'd have to say my favorite film from Studio Ghibli is My Neighbor Totoro. I think the childish nature of the film is what really adds to the experience. Totoro is an escape to these two young girls, especially the older one, who may perhaps have to grow up faster than she actually should. When I watched this film, it really made me feel like a kid again, and that's a testament to the magic of Miyazaki's masterpiece.
You know, after I watched the film, I did think it had it was definitely a childish movie, probably the most childish one out of the three I watched, which was Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, and this film. But, you know, just kind of afterwards, when I really sat down and thought about it, looked up some reviews, read up about it, the adult message that it's sending, I thought is one of the best, I think, out of all of those three. Because it's kind of like, Totoro might not even be a real character. They could be in the imaginations of these two young girls, which kind of blew my mind, you know, because it's just these two kids trying to get a better life out of what they have now.
Exactly. And like, would a cat bus really exist now?
The cat bus actually, that made me uncomfortable. He scared me. he did. He really did.
I mean, yeah, that's understandable. I'm glad that you feel that way, because really, I think it's the message that really made me love this above all of Miyazaki's films. Like, by far, it is the best. Now, if you want to catch Spirited Away in theaters, you still can, because the English dub will be playing at Select Regal Cinema tomorrow at 7 p.m. After the break, we'll be talking about the best hockey movies in honor of Whiteout Week, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back to The Real Deal, your source for spoiler-free movie reviews. Now, since Whiteout Week is right around the corner, we decided to do our research and talk about our favorite hockey movies. So, I haven't really watched that many. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, me neither.
I've seen a good amount. I would say at least 6 to 8 through my lifetime so far. I'm more of a baseball guy, to be honest.
Fair enough. Well, I will say that I watched, over the past couple weeks, I watched Goon, which I thought sucked. I watched Slapshot with Paul Newman, directed by George Roy Hill, and I thought it was okay. It got some good laughs. It was very much a product
the
of
Hanson
its time.
brothers make that film.
Yeah, oh, they're hilarious. But my pick isn't really a hockey movie.
Oh, yes, it
But at
is.
the same time, it is, and that's Happy Gilmore. For Adam Sandler's comedies, it's pretty charming. I mean, yeah, it has a load of issues, like a formulaic plot and very two-dimensional characters, but I haven't really watched any great hockey movies, so yeah, Happy Gilmore.
I mean,
Happy Gilmore is a classic comedy movie. It really is. It's got some of the most quotable lines in any movie I've ever seen. Honestly, like just get in the hole when he's trying to just push the golf ball a few inches. It's just so funny. And Adam Sandler's performance, although the characters are 2D, and that's kind of the way it's supposed to be in this film, it's just one of those ranchy 2000s comedies. I think it's funny.
I mean,
It's
between Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison, those are my two favorite, comedies from Adam Sandler. But
Yeah.
two of the best scenes. Well, Ben Stiller in that film steals every
Oh my
moment he's
goodness.
in. He's
I didn't
hilarious.
even know he was in the movie until he
In the
showed
nursing
up. I was
home,
like,
yeah.
what?
And then the Bob Barker scene too. That's iconic in comedy. I mean, it's not art. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's subjective, but to me, that's not art. But it still makes me laugh to this day. I mean, the film is nothing special. I would still give it 3 stars out of 5. But for what it is, it's perfect 90s Adam Sandler. That's what it's meant to be. I mean, Uncut Gems is coming out in a few months, so I mean, that's going to be serious Adam Sandler. But for
That'll change our
90s
perspectives.
Saturday Night Live era, Adam Sandler, Happy Gilmore is the go-to hockey movie as well.
So Jacob, I hear you've seen a couple hockey movies.
I
huh?
have seen a couple hockey movies, and of those couple, my favorite would definitely be Miracle, directed by Gavin O'Connor. Miracle came out in 2004, but I still think it holds up pretty well into today in terms of sports movies. The film is the true story of American hockey coach Herb Brooks, played by Kurt Russell, who led the 1980 U.S. Winter Olympic hockey team to victory over the nearly unbeatable Russian hockey team. Kurt Russell's performance is the main draw of this movie. He steals every scene he's in, and his pregame speech before the big game in the third act is one of the best sport movie speeches ever put to film.
Now, the thing is, why I haven't seen any great hockey movies is because I haven't watched that or The Mighty Ducks. So
those are probably the two best hockey movies that you could watch, I think.
Well, the thing about Miracle, and it was a true story in 1980 with the Olympics,
Yeah.
you always love to see an underdog story.
Oh,
and
yeah.
when Kurt Russell is leading your cast with a brilliant script, you know you're in for a good time. I mean, you just saw Kurt Russell in The Thing, so it's a different story for Halloween.
even better, baby.
And
But-
just 4 years later, after the 1980 Winter Olympics, in the 1980 Winter Olympics, they only allowed college students to play. There was no professional hockey players allowed in the U.S. to play in the Olympics, even though the Russian team was pretty much all pro. The U.S. just didn't allow that. 4 years after that, they actually allowed that. So it was kind of like one last hurrah for the underdogs.
And the whole thing is, too, with the Cold War, the U.S. and Russian conflict, the U.S. winning this had more symbolic meaning than just athletics.
Oh yeah, it was definitely felt around the world. I mean, the whole world watched this game and they felt the impact of it, and it just builds a lot of tension in the movie, I think.
So it saved the U.S. more than Rocky IV did.
Yes, it definitely
Good,
did.
because I hate that movie. Alex, what's your pick?
So even though my selection is no Citizen Kane, The Mighty Ducks remains a personal favorite in the hockey genre of mine, and it stars Charlie Sheen's brother Emilio Estevez as the iconic leader of the squad, and this film is the perfect mix of 90s Disney humor and fast-paced ice antics. And the movie was actually so successful that in 1992, a year after release, there was a professional team birthed named after them known as the Anaheim Ducks. Later in the decade, 2 sequels were made, but the original classic still reigns supreme.
You know, I think I must have watched this film when I was very young, but I mean, I can't really critique it because quite frankly, I don't remember
I mean,
it.
my best comparison for it is a hockey version of The Bad News Bears. I mean, The Bad News Bears is one of my favorite sports movies of all time, but The Mighty Ducks does its job great as well. Goldberg the goalie is one of the funniest characters you'll see in a film. He's just like a fat 13-year-old in the net, and it's just really funny every scene he's in. His lines, I mean, in real life now he's sort of a mess, the actor, but the movie is great. You got the leader of the team, the captain, Charlie, who was in, I believe, the sequels as well, and there was a romantic plot with his mom and Emilio Estevez.
Yep.
That was weird, but the film itself is, as I just said, perfect for the genre.
Yeah,
Well,
I
I
mean, it's
guess-
been years since I've seen that movie, but I remember it being very
Well,
funny.
I guess we'll have to check it out, Jacob. But
Yeah.
stay in your seats, folks, because the best is yet to come. Our featured review of Zombieland Double Tap is coming up right after the break. And we're back with the real deal, and our featured review of Zombieland Double Tap is coming up right now. It was directed by Ruben Fleischer, starring Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, Emma Stone, Abigail Breslin, Zoe Deutsch, and Rosario Dawson. Now, many fans of the first Zombieland have been clamoring for a sequel for years. Now, 10 years, they finally got what they wanted, but the real question is, does it live up to the first? My compadres, what do you think?
No. No, it does not live
I
up to
was
the first.
a bigger fan of the film than you two just talking to. Obviously, to me, the first one was better, but we'll get into that more now.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, were you a big fan of the first one?
Yeah, I really liked the first one, mainly because it was such a different zombie film, and it was in 2009, and we had a lot of zombie things going on. We had The Walking Dead in its prime, I think. We had just, I think like World War Z was coming
There was
out.
video games, too,
Oh,
as
video
well.
games.
Left 4 Dead.
Listen, there was a lot of zombies in 2009. And one thing they did different was they didn't really have any like high stakes. This was a kind of a comedy set in a zombie apocalypse, and it worked for some reason.
Well,
when it probably shouldn't have, and that's why I liked it a lot.
Well, I don't love the first Zombieland. I think it's good, but I think that there are films, zombie comedies like Shaun of the Dead, that did it better at the time. But you know, it's a good movie. But I absolutely agree with you guys. It does not really. It's not as good as the first. I think it might be funnier in some regards, but I think structurally it's very off, and it was completely
A
unnecessary.
big thing about the first one is a lot of the cast in 2009 still had a lot to prove. I mean, Jesse Eisenberg was probably still filming The Social Network,
that was
and
around
Emma
the same
Stone was
time.
still a star, but not to the level of like a. How many times did she win an Academy Award? Like
She's
3.
won once. She was nominated like.
She's one of the
3
biggest stars
times.
in the world now. So
Yeah.
these actors and actresses still had a lot to prove in the cinema. And 10 years later, I mean, I'm not saying this was a cash grab. It felt like at certain times, but it fully wasn't. It just the chemistry was still there, just a little forced at times.
The chemistry felt forced, that's for sure. I think a lot of them, they actually felt pretty bland to me.
Really?
They felt more boring in this film than they did in the first one, I think.
Yeah, you know.
I mean, just more boring as in they looked bored while they were making this movie. Jesse Eisenberg, I almost called him Michael Cera because they look
Same
the same.
person.
Same person.
Okay,
But-
maybe, but like I think Woody Harrelson was bringing something to it, and Zoe Deutsch. Oh my goodness, scene stealer. I know it's just
You're
very
shaking
one
your
dimensional.
head, Jacob.
What? Why are
That
you
was
shaking your head?
That was the
Jacob?
worst part of the movie.
What do you mean?
That was she was so annoying in that movie and such a horribly written character. I saw it with my girlfriend and she hated that character,
What?
especially. And I could see why. I
Really?
mean, like, she's just she's a stereotypical blonde, like millennial women. Like, I don't know what they were trying to write
that
into
was-
this
that
movie.
was the
It was
point.
terrible though, because nobody like this actually
mean,
exists. It's like a cartoon character.
I'm
brought
gonna
to life.
try to.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to get in the middle of this. Her character of Madison, yes, was terribly written, but she
Yeah.
brought something to the character that had distinctive
Oh
personality.
yeah,
Exactly,
she was great.
yeah.
Yeah, Zoe herself, she
Oh.
played the character great. It was
Oh,
great.
you're referring to the character, yeah, how they
But
wrote
the
it.
character and how this character was written and portrayed, I thought was just a little.
I feel like it was
stereotypical.
intentional, though. Obviously, that.
I,
Oh, it
I think
obviously
so too.
was, but-
So you're saying that you like the performance?
Yeah, I like the
You
performance.
don't like the character.
No, did not like the character. I mean, we have an
Okay.
all-star cast of people to work with,
Well-
and I feel like she was somehow given the best parts of the movie.
I want to add one thing as well. Abigail Breslin is great, and she was just thrown in the background of this
Oh
film.
yeah, she was not in this movie at all.
No, not really. And I think that has to do with the screenplay, which was written by Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick, and Dave Callahan. And now Reese and Wernick wrote the first as well as the Deadpool movies, which in Eisenberg's words were the reason the sequel came so late. And Dave Callahan is a newcomer to the Zombieland universe, however, coming from acclaimed films such as Godzilla, The Expendables, and Doom.
I mean, would I say I enjoy the Deadpool films more than Zombieland 2? Yes, but even so, I mean, the script might have been the weakest aspect of the film
Yeah.
because basically it was just the same cast thrown into, I mean, a new world. It was pretty similar. It was just larger stakes, I would say.
To me, it felt like that it was just a bunch of contrived character drama. And now some people say, oh, well, zombie films are contrived. That's not the point. I'm just saying that I don't really feel like they pushed a lot of the characters forward, at least in a sense. It just felt like they
They're-
stayed the same and they just like had their own little issues and then they wrapped it up amongst themselves.
There definitely wasn't that much character development at all. I mean, Woody Harrelson pretty much, his character stayed to the same exact thing he wanted to do in the first movie, which was be alone, but which, I mean, at the end, obviously he didn't, but that's only because he saw trouble from where he was leaving and he wanted to go save his
There's
family.
one
But
difference-
the main issue, I think, with this script was it kind of just felt like a bunch of, would this be cool in a zombie scenario? Like, let's get a monster truck in here. What if they met people that looked like themselves and acted the same way? It felt like a bunch of just like skits and cool ideas that were put together into a movie without like a real flesh out of any character whatsoever.
Without spoiling anything, I definitely agree with you. I felt like a lot of it was like, as you said, like they were like kind of disconnected skits. And I don't know how you felt about that.
I feel like on paper they felt like it was going to work at times, but it just, something about it never fully came through. But one thing I wanted to mention, and you were just talking about Woody Harrelson's character of Tallahassee, and if you've seen the first one, you know he loves his Twinkies, and for whatever reason,
No Twinkies.
in this film,
No Twinkies.
No.
not even a
Twinkies.
reference to them. I'm fine with not seeing a Twinkie on screen. I mean, it's just not even a reference. It was
His whole
bizarre.
character was built off Twinkies in the first movie, and there wasn't a single mention of Twinkies. It was just odd. He only cared about the car more than Twinkies.
And
is
Abigail
weird.
Breslin, yeah.
And Abigail Breslin.
And also, like, there was one really contrived plot point at the end, speaking of contrivances, that blew my mind. And I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
When they're all at one place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, why? Like, that was literally, like, it was such a movie moment that I thought was completely unnecessary.
Would you say in this film there was more narrations from Jesse Eisenberg? I felt like there was a
yeah,
lot
I
more.
felt like there was, there definitely was a lot more, and it kind of fell flat to me, I think.
No, I agree because it felt a lot to me like with the zombie kill of the week thing. I felt like that was a little drawn out, especially compared to the first one. And even in the first one, one of my main issues was the narration was kind of expository, and so I really didn't like that sort of
He
thing.
definitely wasn't breaking the fourth wall as much as this film.
Yeah.
Like it was clear that the Deadpool writers were leaning on that as a funny aspect.
Okay. Well, coming up after the break, our final review of Zombieland Double Tap.
Yes, sir.
But before we go to the break, we have some trivia for you. Who is the mother of actress Zoe Deutsch? Find out when we come back with our final thoughts on The Real Deal. Welcome back to The Real Deal. Now, before the break, we asked you who is the mother of actress Zoe Deutsch. Well, the answer to the trivia question is Leah Thompson, best known for her role as Lorraine Baines in Back to the Future. Now, her mother is, or her father, I mean, what am I talking about, is Howard Deutsch, who directed the John Hughes written films Pretty in Pink and Some Kind of Wonderful.
Yeah, I was actually just listening to The Power of Love by Huey Lewis in the News, so there's my Back to the Future reference.
You mean
for
my
the day.
Bruce Springsteen? Oh, man. Well, anyway, yeah, Zombieland, I think you were talking about the fact that there was this whole group of pacifists. Now, we won't get into it too much because we don't want to spoil it.
But pacifists in a zombie apocalypse without guns doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
It really doesn't. I mean, these I guess the group of people were all pacifists, and they melted. Well, not to spoil anything.
Okay.
But they melted people's guns.
Also, the character of Berkeley was really annoying to me.
He was, yeah. It was very one note. I'm like, not all hippies are like that. Come on.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess I'll get to my thoughts here first. I thought the movie was, I said unnecessary, absolutely, and it was what it was. I don't think it really lived up to the hype that the sequel had, but I give it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, so for me, my love for the first Zombieland makes me a little biased towards this long-awaited sequel, and the highlight of the film for me is the chemistry that never left these talented actors and actresses, and with jokes that felt forced at times, this is far from perfect use of cinema as a storytelling medium, but I fully went to the theater knowing that the goal from the filmmakers was to supply entertainment and not be taken fully seriously. In reality, I would give this a 6 out of 10, but the credits scene alone enhances it to a generous 7 out of 10.
I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10, sadly. Zombieland Double Tap doesn't capture the same essence that what made the first movie great and is dragged down by a story that feels like a collection of zombie SNL skits more than a real story. The all-star Oscar-nominated cast of the film looks bored throughout, while Zoe Deutsch's character Madison is so cringeworthy and horribly written that she takes points out of my final score. Somehow, a movie that many waited for almost 10 years for felt rushed in the end.
Well, I'm glad that we all had similar feelings, but for our next review, we're going to be reviewing the latest in the Terminator franchise, which is Terminator Dark Fate. Are you guys looking forward to this, or is this an unnecessary soft reboot?
I mean, to be honest, I felt after 2, they haven't really made a masterpiece. I mean, the first 2 Terminators, even though they're so different, James Cameron's vision was fully seen on the big screen. And I mean, I've heard mixed things about it so far. I'm looking forward to seeing it, but at the end of the day, they don't need to make more.
Yeah, no, I agree with Alex. They never really needed more Terminator, but I feel like the past few movies have been so bad they've made the legacy so much worse that we almost need a good Terminator movie just to close it all out.
Well, that's the thing. I'm willing to give it a shot because Halloween did it, and it worked pretty well for the most part.
Yeah, Halloween was a success, I think.
Yeah, and I think that James Cameron's on, so it could be good. Well, thanks for tuning in to today's episode of The Real Deal, guys. Have a good night, folks, and keep it real.